Okay, hello and welcome to today's Hawkular Alpha 3 presentation. And as so often, I will share my screen here for some demos. I hope the quality will be good. Okay. So this one, I think everyone knows already, is the login page for Hawkular. There are no changes in here. We have the standard JDO user. And this is the URL screen that you also already know, I guess, which we have had since Alpha 1. And one of the changes that we have added in Alpha 3 is that here in the header of each URL, you will now see the IP address that was last recorded for that URL and the powered by string. So here it's a simple Apache or github.com. It's a bit more complex for Microsoft.com, which is an IIS with ASP.NET, or Red is an Apache with PHP. And if you go into one of these URLs, you have the standard display of availability and response time. No news here. Graphs still look good. So let's go over to the application servers, which is much more interesting. I have the standard Hawkular server as the only one in my inventory right now. And if I go to that, you can see here, well, we have first the JVM tab as before, with JVM heap usage and non-heap usage. And what's new is the accumulated garbage collection duration. So apparently there was a huge garbage collection almost an hour ago, but nothing major happening since. What's new is the web subtab that shows the number of web sessions that have been recorded. So the green bar or the green line is the number of the active sessions, the orange of expired sessions, and then red rejected, which is just at 0. Let's switch to a different time frame. So we had a pretty neat pattern over here where a lot of active sessions were there and then sessions expired and new were created at that point in time. That's all for here right now. And then when you go to deployments, this is probably the most interesting new feature here. And this is my server console display, and I will just clean it out. Try to make the font even larger. And now what you have added is the possibility to run actions on the deployments. So we can enable, redeploy, disable, and remove a deployment. And I guess it's best shown by this avail creator var, for example. So I can disable that. And you see a few seconds later, I get a green box that the disabling or undeploy has succeeded. There is a non-nice error message here in the console that you can ignore. It's basically the agent just not yet knowing that this was disabled and trying to monitor some data from it. We'll fix that. The more interesting part is above here. So we have received message from the UI. Then inside the server asking the feed to execute the undeploy. Then we have here the agent replying. And what happened under the covers is that here the web context Hawkular avail creator, so the full application, has been undeployed and stopped. And so until here, actually. And if you go back into the UI, you see here the gray stopped button. So this deployment has now stopped. We should probably update the enable disabled column over here. And now when we go to enable, we should see another operation has succeeded message. If we go back into the console log, we see here request to execute the deploy. And indeed, the Wildfly server is starting the deployment of this WAR file. And this has then been successfully started. So this is pretty cool. And now we have to wait for another availability taking cycle for this one to become green again. So let me clear the console again. And now it's indeed green. And I can also run a redeploy cycle, which is also very quick. And just from looking at the console, you can see that the redeploy has worked. Now, for the next version of Hawkular, we are planning to enable this add deployment button, meaning you can in the future also upload new content into the server that gets deployed or undeployed, so takes part of that life cycle. And in that way, you can basically manage one server or multiple from the Hawkular console. There are a few other changes under the cover, some smaller ones, but this is the major part of what we have been working on. And now I want to show some additional stuff which is not part of the Hawkular Alpha 3 milestone itself, but is rather meant to show how Hawkular or how users can interact with Hawkular. So the first one is R. This is a system for statistical computing. And let me try, I have a R console. Let me try to make the font bigger in there as well. So something we have done for RHQ in the past. You need a library curl and JSON, and then you can also run a URL query like with curl, where you go to the Hawkular-Metric gauges with this special name for the heap data used, and can then transfer that into JSON, into a data format, and plot the data with this command. And when I go into that file and I run a Command E, you see directly here in the Quartz window on the left. So Quartz is the internal graphics engine, the data. And I can go here to the JVM tab and compare that with the blue line as it's the used memory. So heap used. And what's interesting with R is the fact that it's pretty easy to change some of the parameters and just re-evaluate the whole thing. So when I only want the last hour, oops, sorry, change it here, run the query again. Last 12 hours, run the query again. This more looks like the format of the Hawkular display that you see in parallel. Let's go to the last 4 hours. And it's also easy to change the number of buckets, so data points. So if it's only 60, the display is much more coarse, or 240. You see also how quick Hawkular is in providing the data. This is pretty good. And what's also interesting is that here the format can easily be changed. So let's go to a logarithmical display. It's probably not much of a difference here for this data set, but for some others it's significant. I can also, I think, is it P, only show the points for the type, or only show a line pretty easily, show both with the standard character for the dots, or what I have been using here is the O. So it's pretty easy to modify graphs and can be helpful. Also, I mean, this is most obvious, but R is very good in statistical computation, so it's pretty easy to run additional statistical algorithms. So down here, I have done a little bit of, between quotes, magic and statistical things. And this way, now we have the orange lines here, which show the standard deviation of the data. It's probably not much value of a pure gauge that is, oh well, actually it may be pretty good. So for a standard deviation of the memory, so some other types, it's probably not that good. It's also relatively easy to just show the high and low values explicitly, like adding some function where they are now written in green and black. Here the 240 buckets is probably too much. Let's go back like this. And then you can also have the curves of minimum, maximum. And you can basically do a lot with R. It's a pretty amazing system. So the other thing that I want to show also for the inclusion is a small thingy. It's a report generator. Here I don't know how to make the font bigger, if it's possible at all. No. So I have my server URL here, username, password. When I click on go, it goes out, fetches data from Hawkular, and creates a report, in this case about data sources. This one I can increase the font. Yeah, and to see that it's live, if I go in to the URLs and add another one over here, which is this one. Let's wait for a second. I close this one and run it again. We also see this new server listed here with its IP. The powered by trait is not yet collected, so it doesn't show here. And then in a third run, there is a checkbox show charts that I have disabled before or unclicked, unselected. And when I go and go, the report is created again. And this is now even going out to metrics and fetching the charts. So this is already interfacing with Hawkular inventory and metrics, and it's pretty easy, or will be easy, to also add alert information. You see here also the ping durations recorded. For this new server, it's only one ping, so not much done, while for the other ones here, it's already data since this morning when I started the server. So this shows that it's pretty easy to interface with Hawkular, to add additional and new functionality outside of Hawkular and what we provide. And of course, with the example from R, it would be easy to also write back the data obtained from the standard deviation into a new metric that could be then later queried by other systems or run into alerting. Okay, I've stopped my screen. Okay, I see one question. Where is my cat? My cat is sleeping, both of them. Otherwise, that's it from my side. I don't see any chat messages or so. Let me see, there is a Q&A tool. I guess I should have activated that before, so. And I'm also not sure if it's working with YouTube's read-only streams. But anyway, if there are no more questions, let's stop here for today. Thanks for watching. And you can provide feedback on IRC, on Hawkular, on the Freenode system, or on the Hawkular Dev mailing list on list.jboss.org. And be sure to visit www.hawkular.org. Thank you.